Hey everybody, Tacoma Cyclist here, and today I'm embarking on a new journey. I don't like New Year's resolutions. I think they're cheesy and they give people a great opportunity to quit because they chalk it up to, well, it's just a New Year's resolution. They've become so trite and ridiculous. It just so happens that what I'm trying to do here coincides well with the first of the year, so it's going to happen around the first of the year. This isn't a New Year's resolution, though. This is a lifestyle change and a new journey for me, and I want you guys to come along with. The boogeyman's on his own path. He's becoming quite the cyclist. He's always been very strong. He's always been very dedicated. But the work he's doing right now and the path that he's on is different than my own, and that's great. We've known that was going to come for a long time, but this is a great opportunity for me to take a look at my own experiences and my own path and see what I need to do from here. So that's what we're doing here. Let me tell you a little bit about how I got into cycling and some of the past. And if this stuff bores you, you can skip right ahead to the meat of the program here. But also let me introduce this segment. I'm going to start doing a vlog for the next 90 days. And my goal is to raise my FTP up to 300 or above and to get my weight to around 62 kilograms. Now you can see right now that my weight isn't that much higher than that, and in general I'm actually a relatively skinny guy. That wasn't always the case, but I'll get to that in a minute. And I also want to make it very clear that this should in no way be a weight shaming, whether heavy or light, concept, and I don't want people to think that that I'm doing unhealthy eating practices to get down there. In fact, I'm going to, through the next 90 days, show you some of the eating practices that I do to focus on that weight loss in a healthy and responsible manner. But the goal is to get above 300 FTP, 300 or above, and 62-ish kilograms body weight, 62 to 63, which puts me close to 5 watts per kilogram for an FTP. Why is this significant? Well, the reality is that I've been holding at about a 260 to 280 watt, give or take, depending upon the time of the year, FTP for the last few years. And there's good reason for that. I haven't increased my training load. In fact, I haven't done anything specific to training. I've just ridden. And sometimes I ride hard, and sometimes I don't ride that hard. And now I'd like to add a little bit of discipline to my routine and focus on getting that number higher. The single biggest increase that I had in my FTP came after my accident, which I don't really talk a whole lot about on this channel, but about 3.5 years ago, I was hit by a car. It completely destroyed the lower half of my left leg to the point where there's 3 large plates, somebody else's bone, and 17 screws that were holding my leg together. The doctors talked about potential amputation, but instead it took me about 6 months to relearn how to walk again and use my leg. Prior to that, I was around a 200 to 220 FTP, and shortly thereafter, I was at about a 260 FTP. I came back stronger because, like many of the things I do in life, if you tell me what I can't do, or you try to hold me back, or you do something to me that's going to stop me, I'm going to push harder and harder and harder. And I trained harder than I ever did in that 6-month window. And I boosted my FTP from a really pretty low 200 to 220 watts up to 260 to 280. Now I'm giving ranges because I think everybody's FTP varies at various times. So I did an FTP test not too long ago. It was around 270, 275. I don't think it's going to average that right now. I don't think I've been training to that. So I'm going to do an FTP test here later in this very video, and we'll take a look at it. But let me tell you about the journey I've had to get to cycling and what it's done for me. About 8 years ago, I didn't even own a bike. Actually, I kind of did, but it was like a 35-pound townie bike kind of thing. And we happened to be in France, and my kid, who had just gotten his brand new bike because he got his training wheels off, we happened to see the Tour de France in July. We saw one stage of it and passed through town, and we saw the rest day, and the boogeyman said, that's what I want to do. I want to do that for a living. He had already been tearing up all of the streets in our neighborhood, so we thought it was only natural. I thought it was only natural. Hey, let's do this. Let's invest in this. So he already had his new bike, and I said, well, let me go out and get a bike and support the kid and see what happens, and then the rest is history. Now I've got two things here, because I want to show you a little bit. I'm going to get into more detail about this in later videos, but I have two things here. This is my second jersey that I ever owned. It screams Fred, but this is a large jersey, Trek branded, and like I said, this is my second jersey. My first jersey was an extra large. I don't have that jersey anymore. I don't know where it went. I'm going to put this on. This jersey was extremely tight on me, as in I was spilling out of this jersey. I was over 200 pounds. I was unhealthy, and my weight, my cholesterol, my blood tests, they were all bad. I was a runner when I was a kid. I was a very fast runner, and then I stopped, and I became sedentary for decades, literally decades. And I put on a lot of weight, and I ate unhealthily, and I did unhealthy things. Never did any drugs or smoking or anything like that, but I ate very poorly, and I didn't exercise in any way. And that was the jersey that I fit into. 3 months after getting a bike, I actually rode my first century in that jersey, which was probably a little bit stupid. It was actually about 2.5 months after getting the bike, I rode my first century. And it hurt, but now, honestly, those are easy. Probably can do it on 2 bottles of water with no problem. But this is my jersey. This is my skin suit now. Now, this is a Castelli skin suit. And if you know anything about Castelli, you know that if it says it's medium, it's a small in everybody else's brand. Well, if you can see that, it's an extra small skin suit. I'm not trying to get unnaturally tiny. I am unnaturally tiny. I'm a small guy. I always have been a small guy. When I was in high school, they actually put me on a diet to make me gain weight because I was 90 pounds and 5'9". So that just shows you where I am. Nobody's getting tickets to this gun show. Sorry. So, what's the point of the next 90 days? I want to take my training to the next level. I've never taken cycling overly serious, and I'm an old man. I'm an old man playing bicycles. The best thing I can do is not die. And at a time like this, when literally 350,000 people are dying because of a stupid disease, I want to do my best to be as healthy as I possibly can. Not just for myself, but I kind of like being around my kid. I kind of like being around my friends, and I want to make sure that I can do that for a long time to come. So, me raising my FTP has nothing to do with me being healthy. I've ridden about 9,000 miles this year. That has a lot to do with me being healthy. Eating well has a lot to do with me being healthy. And the only thing I'm trying to do here is do better than what I've done before. Now that the boogeyman, who would normally sit here, is not here. Well, he's here, but he's up there. Now he's on his own path. There's no need for me to not focus on my training as well. So he already trains with one of the top coaches in the world, gets to ride and train regularly with some World Tour pros, which is awesome. And he's well on his way. Me, I'd like to win some Cat 3 races, maybe upgrade to a Cat 2. But I need to actually train. I actually need to get healthier to do that. So that's what this is all about. This is all about making myself better, making myself faster. And I'd like to show you the process that I go through to do this. Now I'm going to point to another YouTube channel, which is kind of weird. I know I'm asking you to watch this video series, but I also want you to check out another video series, and that's from a YouTube channel by the name of Dylan Johnson. I'm going to be using advice from Dylan's channel. He's also a very well-recognized coach and has a lot of experience in this field. And I'm going to be using some of his recommendations off of his channel as a basis. So I'll put a link to his channel down below. If you're not already subscribed, which I'd be surprised if you're subscribed to my channel and watching my videos, but you aren't already watching his. But if you aren't, check his videos out. I think they're pretty good, and I think they're pretty cool. I'm going to be using some of the advice from his channel. And again, I got some pretty clear goals. There's 2 of them. Number 1 is to get my FTP above 300, and number 2 is to get my weight to around 62 to 63 kilograms, which, by the way, is not uncommon for me. Middle of racing season, I'm typically 61 to 62 kilograms anyway. But let's face it, it's the holidays. You eat cookies and you get fat. Well, can't use the word fat for me, but in any case, you put on weight. So I'm going to take that weight off. I'm going to bring my FTP up. Along the way, I'm going to show you some of the healthy eating tactics that I'm using, some of the maybe recipes that I put together. I'm going to show you some of my workouts. I'm going to show you the schedule of my workouts. And I'm going to show you why it is I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. And at the end, I'm going to take another FTP test. And I may fail. I'm okay with that. But it's about the process to me. It's about the journey. So why don't you do it too? Come along with me. Do this journey. Let's do 90 days. 90 days of just doing your best to train well. And that's important. Train well, not just train hard. Training hard doesn't necessarily do anything. Train well. Come with me. Let me take my FTP test. I'm going to do the ramp test because I think a lot of you have already heard that I'm not a big fan of the 20-minute test on FTP on Zwift. Let me take that ramp test, and then we'll see what I can do. Like I said, I may fail my goals, and that's okay. I'm also going to set some new goals throughout the process because I don't think that just having an FTP as a goal is a smart. I don't think it's a smart goal. FTP means nothing in the end. If you can't race and if you can't ride well, then FTP means nothing. So now I'm going to do my first FTP test. Well, of this 90-day period. I'll do another one at the end of the 90 days and see where I fall at that point. At the moment, my most recent FTP test was about maybe 2 months ago, maybe a little less than 2 months ago, which is more frequently than I would typically test anyway. But whatever, I'm doing another test. Got to find a baseline. So I'm going to go ahead and do the ramp test, the Zwift prescribed ramp test. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to not have erg mode on. We'll see if that works well or not. I've done the ramp test before, and I did use erg mode for that one. But I think I have the consistency in my legs to be able to hold the wattage that's prescribed exactly as I need to. So if you don't know, if you haven't watched some of my other videos, check my channel. I've got one on why it is that I don't like erg mode. Now, I do like the ramp test. I've had some people question, put some questions on the comments. Is the ramp test equal to or similar enough to the 20-minute FTP test that it counts? And I'll tell you, I've done the 20-minute FTP test followed by the ramp test 1 week later, and my numbers were within just a couple watts of each other for both of those tests. So the way that the ramp test works is it starts you at a pretty low wattage. In fact, the exercise itself starts off with a 5-minute warm-up block, which is wholly insufficient, by the way. Don't do that. I mean, do the workout and do that 5 minutes, but do what I'm doing and do an actual warm-up first. Yeah, just jumping straight in, doing 5 minutes of light pedaling and then doing a ramp test is not exactly brilliant. So do a warm-up, and then what it'll do is it'll give you 5 minutes of free spin time. And then it'll give you straight onto the ramps. Starts you out really low, and it increases the power a little bit at a time. Essentially what happens is whatever the longest, or whatever the 1 minute power you have at the end, or whatever your highest 1 minute power is in that period, it takes 75% of that, and that's your FTP. Like I said, last time I did this, it was within just a couple watts. So we'll see. My last FTP test, doing the 20-minute test, my FTP was 275. I think to be honest with you. I've detrained a little bit since then, and I wouldn't be surprised if my FTP were only in the 250 to 260 range right now. I think that's relatively normal as we go through the winter months. I think it's okay to lose a little bit of power and then build that back. If you're always just sitting at that same number, you're probably doing something wrong, honestly. If you're not going up or going down, you're probably not doing something great. It means you're doing the same thing over and over again, and repeating the same thing over and over again and not changing. I think that's kind of like the definition of insanity. So, you know, vary it up a little bit. That's what I'm doing here. So my power, I expect to be a little bit lower, but then I expect to spend the next 3 months building that up. During this warm-up, I'm going to do just a few minutes of really light spinning. Now I'm doing 70 watts, give or take, over 90 RPM. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do a couple openers. The idea is I want to get my anaerobic work going. I don't want to exhaust my anaerobic work. That's actually not the point of a ramp test. But I want my anaerobic engine to have been woken up before I actually do the ramp test. If the first experience I have on a ramp test of getting anaerobic is in the ramp test, I'm gonna die real fast. Don't worry, not literally, but I'm gonna have a really hard time. So ideally you wanna open it up a little bit, get your heart rate going. The only reason my heart rate's so high right now is because I'm talking and riding. Normally at this pace I'd be about 80 to 90 beats per minute heart rate. But you want to get your heart rate up a couple times, pretty close to peak, and then get it right back down again. So 15 to 30 seconds tops in an anaerobic pace. So I'll probably do 8, 9 watts per kilogram, 6 to 8 watts per kilogram actually. I don't want to go crazy. And I want to do a few of those, maybe 3 or 4. And then cool down a little bit, and then start the test. So I lied a little bit. I went ahead and put on erg mode, but honestly that's because I actually I don't hate the erg mode on this Elite trainer as much as I did on my Wahoo. And I don't have erg smoothing turned on. So it's going to give me a little bit more flexibility within the range that I need to be in. So we'll see how that works out. Let's see, the things that I've done to get prepped for this. I had a rest day yesterday. Pretty decent sleep last night. I didn't have a great lunch, but I didn't have a terrible lunch. And then I had pretty decent snacks, some vegetables and some hummus. 20-ish minute warm-up with some ramps, with some openers. And now I'm doing the 5-minute free ride. The first several minutes of this should be relatively straightforward and easy. I'm not going to talk through the test because I need my heart rate to be low, and my heart rate's already going up high because talking makes it do that. I'm also not going to show the whole thing. I'll cut and come back in when it really starts getting kind of challenging. I've got that fan on medium. I'm going to turn it up to high. That fan's going to go on. I'm wearing one of my most comfortable pairs of bibs, a nice form-fitting jersey, which is going to come unzipped very quickly. I'm even wearing some of my nicest socks provided by Swiftwick. They're a sponsor of ours and greatly appreciate their sponsorship. And I've had some Scratch Labs shoes. Again, another sponsor, and very happy to have them as a sponsor as well. So that's it. Now I'm a little bit nervous. We'll see how much I've detrained. I've chosen this route, actually very specifically. I chose the Tempest Fugit, Tempest Fugit as we call it, Tempest Fugit loop because it's flat. Now I know there's no resistance change while you're doing an FTP test. I know that.
don't like the comments up and tell me, oh, but you don't have to worry about that. I know. Where it changes is in my mind. And when I see a hill, I'm a big dumb animal. I try to go harder and faster up that hill. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have as flat of a course as I possibly can. This seems to be one of the best for being flat. That's why I chose it. Well, not great, but now I know where I gotta start. 260, 259. Acceptably smooth. All right, let's look at cadence. Could I have gone a little longer? Maybe, but I probably would have gotten 1 or 2 more watts. So that power, I'm going to round it up to 260 because it's an easier number to calculate off of. Eesh. Actually just a touch under 4 watts per kilogram, which honestly is probably the lowest I've been in 3 years. Mostly because my weight's a little higher and my power's a little lower. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. Now, what I need to be able to do is continue that test for, well, basically 3 more minutes. I need to sustain 400 watts for a minute to finish in 3 months and have a 300 watt FTP. 3 more minutes of that test. I mean, those are the hardest minutes, right? So I guess we'll see. So, you know, stay tuned and let's see how the rest of this goes. For now, I'm going to do a warm down and then I'm going to go hop in the shower and have some good recovery for tonight. If you want to catch the rest of this, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to see more subscribers. We've got a bunch that have just joined. Thank you all very much for those of you who have joined. Definitely subscribe because there's going to be more of this. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to get to 300 watts and then get my FTP or get my weight down to 62 kilograms. So stay tuned, subscribe. Throw some questions or comments down in the comment section below. Let me know how you did, how you got your power up too. Thanks everyone. See you guys again soon.